Okay, this may not look like much, but it's actually the base of my X-Wing, in case you didn't know. And I wanted to point out a problem here. See this right here? There was some raised text that I wanted to remove, and I used some sandpaper to do that, but as you can see, it's still there somehow. I thought I removed it. Actually, what I did was I sanded it off, and apparently I sanded too deep in those. I don't know how that happens. Happens every time though. So I'm going to have to sand that again. Here, you can see it better if I do this. Sure, that doesn't help. Sorry about that. You can see better if I do this. See that there? It should not say anything there. In fact, it didn't until I painted it. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that, and then reprime it, and then we'll get to painting this thing. All right. Now, the first thing I want to do, after I shut the door, is I want to pre-shade it. Pre-shading is where you take a dark color like black or dark gray. I'm going to go with black in this case because the base coat is already kind of dark. You take a dark color and you airbrush it over areas that are going to be darkened by use or by wear. Like the back panel here might possibly be hotter than the rest of the vehicle, so it's going to get a nice coat of black first. Down in here, you're going to get black. The engines, definitely. And the panel lines. All the panel lines are going to have to be black. So, I'm going to take my Testors Flat Black. Well, actually, Testors Gloss Black. Gloss in this case because it has a... well, it dries slightly darker than Flat Black. And so it will appear darker. It will appear more readily. Now, pre-shading, you want to actually have a relatively it needs to be very subtle. So why would I be using black? Well, you know, as opposed to a dark gray? Well, like I said, the base coat's already kind of black, and so I want to use something that'll be visible under the base coat, which is going to be camouflage gray in this case. So I'm going to get started here. I've got my airbrush here. It's a Iwata Revolution, I believe. Yeah, Iwata Revolution CR. Very nice gravity feed airbrush. Gravity feed dual action airbrush. That means that the top here, the cup, is where the paint is held. Gravity pulls it down into this chute down here where it mixes with air. And the double action part refers to the fact that you push down to get air and you pull back in order to get paint. So let me turn my air compressor on. And I'm just going to get started with the engine deck back here. Hold on, let me test this out a minute. Okay, I'm going to get this engine deck painted now. You can see here, it's getting a pretty nice thick coat of black, but not too thick. I don't want it to cover completely. I just want it to be dark. Same with the engines. Back here where it's going to be the hottest, I want it nice and dark, but not too dark. go ahead and stop the video right now, and I'm going to get back to I'm going to get back to this and hopefully finish it tonight. Well, I'm going to finish it, and then I'll get to the base coat. All right, got her painted. Well, the what is it? The pre-shading, anyway. Now, now that the pre-shading is done, I'm going to paint the base coat. For the X-Wing, I've chosen a base of camouflage gray. It's been recommended to me on the Starship Modeler forums before for painting X-Wings. Well, not directly recommended, but I read about it on one of the Fine Mold's X-Wing build-up articles on the main site. I forget who it was that wrote it, but he said that they recommended camouflage gray as the base coat. And even though that's actually a little darker than I prefer, it's not going to be too much darker than what I'd like. So I've gone ahead and got a bottle of camouflage gray. Oh man. Okay, apparently I've left a little bit of paint on the inside of the lid on from the last time I used it, and it has made the lid stick. How about I use this as an opportunity to show you how to fix that problem if you don't know already. See this stuff here, this Alclad 2 lacquer? It's an airbrush cleaner, and that's not the only thing it's good at. It's also good for removing stuck lids. What you want to do is take your bottle of it and gently pour a little tiny bit of it into the bottom of your lid. Alright. No, that wasn't enough. There we go. Now, I'm going to leave this to set for a minute. Right here. And when I come back, it should be ready to go. Alright, let's see if that worked. What do you know? Worked like a charm. Works every time. If you ever have a paint lid stuck on because of thick paint, that's the way you remove it. Don't go breaking the bottle trying to remove it with pliers or a wrench or anything like that. Just if you know that's the cause. You know, if you're like me, sometimes you forget to wipe the to wipe it off after you're done with it, like I did with this one, and you end up with paint clogging up on the inside of the lid and making it all nasty and causing the lid to lock up on the bottle. Sometimes you can solve that with a wrench, but it's best to try a little bit of thinner first, or airbrush cleaner like I did, because that will enable you to remove it without damaging the lid. Because if you do damage the lid, it'll deform it and make it hard to maintain a seal on the inside here, and cause your paint to dry out faster, and it'll make it harder for you to remove the lid in the long run. So go ahead and always use airbrush cleaner or paint thinner or anything that will affect paint, and use that to remove it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start applying the base coat now. I like these bottles like this that have the screw top lid. It enables me to add paint thinner very easily into my airbrush. By the way, when you're adding paint to an airbrush, if you have an airbrush, not all modelers have one, of course, and you don't necessarily have to have one, but it enables you to do a whole lot of neat tricks like this pre-shading that I've done here. Whenever you add paint to your airbrush, Some modelers like to mix it beforehand, and you know, that's probably the best thing to do. But I don't have anything I can use to mix with. My old bottles, out of habit, I just throw them away. So I haven't yet had the occasion to actually find a bottle. So I just use a the cup in my my airbrush, and I pour it very slowly into the cup. Hey there, that pause that you saw there, that was me losing all power in my camera. But thankfully I happen to have some spare AA lying around, and I managed to replace them and also get my paint all mixed. It's ready to shoot. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this base coat. And before I do that, I'm going to close up the wings. Now, I better test this out. Get the make sure it's coming out right. I like to test it on my finger, but that's not always advisable. Actually, I would much rather test it on this cardboard box that I had in here, but it seems to be missing. Come on. My airbrush really needs to be fixed, I think. I've had it for several years, and I think it's just about ready to give up the ghost. I've got a new one. I've been told it's a really good brush. A Badger Sotar 2020. I actually won that at a door prize at Wonderfest. And as soon as I can find the correct adapter for it, I'm definitely buying one. Because this thing is just about ready to keel over, I think. Okay. Now, when you're shooting your base coat onto your pre-shading, you want to be careful that you don't completely override it. You know, you want to leave it so that it's still slightly visible through your paint. What a pre-shade does is it makes it look as though the paint is faded. So I'm going to go ahead and, like the base coat, I'm going to go ahead and finish painting this. And then I'll show you my finished product.